Hi, I'm Quincy Brown. Thank you for tuning in. For those watching on Facebook Live on the Quincy Brown page, also those watching on Brack Carib Gardens page, and those watching on Cayman Marl Road, I say salutations to everyone. I'm always thinking, I tend to think a lot, you know what I mean? And I'm thinking about general elections 2021. You will recall there was a time that Cayman's general elections always happened in November. It always seemed to coincide 2 weeks after the presidential election in the United States. That happened for a long time. Uh, of course, we had Hurricane Ivan, devastating Hurricane Ivan, in September of 2004. And the government of the day thought that to have a general elections the November of that same year, 2004, would be too soon. Cayman had not rebuilt, and systems were not in place. So as a result, the general election did not take place until May of 2005. The People's Progressive Movement, the PPM, won the election that year. So ever since 2005 to present, we have been having general elections in the Cayman Islands every 4 years, but during the month of May. Yes. Now there have been some people who've said we should go back to November. Well, now I don't know if that's going to happen. Probably not. But a lot of people think we should go back to having our general elections in the November month, 2 weeks after the U.S. presidential election, right? But we've become accustomed now to May. We had elections in May, and it seems to be it's going to stay like that. All right. So I was thinking moving forward, general elections of 2021, how the government will be formed. People are asking for change, but every 4 years, people are crying for change, but in many instances, voters return the same candidates, right? Where I'm from, Cayman Brack, I know that the two candidates there are very strong. They have a lot of support. The two candidates, namely the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly and the Honorable Moses Kirkconnell from Cayman Brack East and Cayman Brack West, Little Cayman, respectively. They are very strong. I'm not sure whether or not they're going to contest seats in 2021. I would think so, but I'm not sure. If they do, then they would be the incumbents. But if I am to test the pulse of the Brackers seem to be satisfied. The majority are happy with the status quo. They're pleased with their representatives. And as a result, every 4 years, the Honorable Moses Kirkconnell and the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly are safely returned to the House of Representatives, the Legislative Assembly. I know we have new persons wanting to come on the scene. I know one year we had Mr. David Bodden and Mr. Rudy Dixon. They tried to contest seats. They were not successful. They couldn't remove the Honorable Kirkconnell and the Honorable O'Connor Connolly. But I'm looking now at first-time representatives, those serving their first term. And I'm wondering if they're going to be returned or not. Well, firstly, I'm hearing some people say we should call early elections. That probably won't happen, but there are some in our society saying that His Excellency the Governor should dissolve the House and call early elections with what's happening with the allegations against the Speaker. Also, we have the Deputy Speaker resigning, and there is a percentage. Whether or not it's a high percentage or a low percentage, I don't know. I don't have the facts. I don't have the figures or the stats. But there is a growing amount of people in the Cayman Islands that seem to say they have no confidence in this administration. But let us realize now that this is the first time, this is unprecedented, that we've had a unity government. A government made up of the PPM, the CDP, formerly known as the UDP, and independents. Last election, the independents had it, but they couldn't form themselves to form a government, you see? But the independents actually had it, which suggested to me then that people perhaps are getting tired of the party system, the two political parties that we have. For the first time in our history, as I said, this government, known as the unity government, is a mixture of the PPM, the CDP, and independents. And guess who is the heart of the government? working behind the scenes. Even though he is the Speaker, because he is the father of the House, he is experienced, he has the political power. The gentleman remains the mover and shaker, even though he does so silently behind the scenes. Everyone has respect for this veteran politician, the father of the House, and he's a key card. He's a smart man. Like a game of chess, he knows how to play the game, and usually governments cannot be formed unless this individual is a part of it, right? Now, first timers, I look at Mr. Bernie Bush from West Bay. He is serving his first term. Will he be reelected? I don't know. Because in the past, Mr. Bernie Bush tried to win a seat to the Legislative Assembly as an independent. And every time he tried as an independent, he never won. This is Mr. Bernie Bush's first time as an elected representative from West Bay, and it can be said that he got in on the coattail of Mr. McKeever Bush. That's called the coattail effect. When you're the leader of a party, you have the power, you have the following, well, then you're able to say, don't only vote for me, but vote for so-and-so in this area, vote for so-and-so in that area, and bam, all three or all four get swept in. You understand? The coattail effect. So, Mr. Bernie Bush has crossed over. When it comes, remember now, because we have to stay abreast with what's happening in news, and I do. I'm a former news reporter, for goodness sake. So even though I'm not active in media these days as I once was, I still stay abreast with what's happening politically, what's happening with news, locally, regional, and internationally. So I've been watching it ever since the outcry of people not wanting the port, not wanting the new cruise piers, okay? You have CPR. Well, Mr. Bernie Bush would not remain with the government by saying, yes, I'll go along with the government. He crossed over to the other side. Could this damage his reputation when he wants to run in 2021 in West Bay? He has now, in more recent times, stepped down from the position of deputy speaker, right? You see, in politics, our actions have consequences. I say our as if I'm a politician. No, I'm not. But what I'm saying is, people are always scrutinizing your every move. So right now at this point, I am not sure if Mr. Bernie Bush will be returned in 2021. I wish him much success. I'm sure he has a strong committee. He has his following. But how are the naysayers going to view it? And bearing in mind, 1 year before general election is when things start to heat up. People start to campaign, and people start talking about plans, and they start the mudslinging and the criticizing of each other, which I think is very unbecoming, but it happens in politics. I am quite interested to see whether or not Mr. Bernie Bush will be returned, and will his voters say, yes, you did the right thing when you crossed over, because as people who voted for you, we don't want to see this port either. We don't want no new piers. Or will they be disappointed and saying, no, we actually support the piers and the port. Why did you not support the government? But I think Mr. Bernie Bush was confident enough when he made that move that his constituents didn't support it as well. And of course now, in more recent times, he stepped down from the role of deputy speaker. At the moment, the House is speakerless. But you know, the speaker has not resigned. I don't think the speaker has any intention of resigning, even though there are calls for him to resign. What he has done is he's taken a leave of absence, whether that's to get medical help, counseling, therapy. So he has plans, the speaker has plans to get the help he needs and return to his seat. And we must always remember, a person is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Not the court of public opinion, the court of law. So now I look at my good friend, Mr. Kenneth Bryan. I can call him Kenneth. Out of respect, I say Mr. Bryan because I respect the office he holds. But Kenneth and I went to school together. Kenneth and I are close in age. He's either a little bit older than me or I might be a little bit older than him. Kenneth and I went to school together. When I couldn't understand algebra and trigonometry, Kenneth helped me with my math in the classroom. Yeah, that's right. Now, 3 weeks ago, if you did a poll, Kenneth was leading in the polls. not only in Georgetown Central, but on a national level, because Kenneth Bryan is the only representative that can be seen in all districts. He continues to stay abreast with what's happening. He comes to his people live, whether that's Facebook Live, whether that's on talk shows. Kenneth can be found. Many persons outside of his constituency, when they can't find their representatives, they go to Kenneth. Kenneth is there. He's the politician of the people, the people's politician on a national level. A very smart young man. He has a lot of potential, and as Mr. Arden McLean once referred to him many years ago, he has as much enthusiasm as an elephant. He's very enthused. He works very hard. This is his first term, and the title of this video is Quincy's Take on Representatives Doing Their First Term. I'm very concerned for Kenneth tonight. I do not know what's going to happen with his seat. I ask a rhetorical question. Has my good friend from Georgetown Central, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, has he committed political suicide with his recent decision? You see, Kenneth is a man of principle. He believes in the process. He believes that the process should go through the courts, and before we condemn a person as guilty, we must assume that they are innocent. So Kenneth wants the police to investigate, get all the information together as it relates to the speaker, and let the judge decide. So Kenneth is not going to cast a vote of no confidence. He is not going to turn his back on the speaker at this time, because Kenneth Bryan also remembers there was a time he had his day in court when he was in trouble. For it was alleged that he was obstructing justice when it came to police carrying out their job. It landed him in a court of law. The premier pulled away. The premier wanted nothing to do with it. At the time, Kenneth Bryan would have been the aide of the premier. He turned his back on him, right? Politics is not a friendly game. If you're a politician and you're looking for a friend, get a puppy. You just don't know who to trust in the game. But the Honorable McKeever Bush was the only politician that stood by Mr. Kenneth Bryan during his time of being in court. And Kenneth has not forgotten that. Kenneth has not forgotten that. So on the matter of principle, on the point of principle then, I think Kenneth is returning the favor by saying, I'm not going to turn my back on you now, boss. I'm not going to turn my back on you now, Mr. Speaker. You were there for me. We all deserve a chance. We all deserve to be heard, right? You see? How is this going to affect Kenneth? Kenneth understands what it means to be a representative. He realizes it's not about him. It's the bigger picture. I'm representing my people. What do they want? He understands it means I have to put my wants and my desires aside to do my job to represent the majority of my people. So, how does his people feel about the accusations against the speaker? Are they now disappointed that he hasn't gone along with Mr. Ezard Miller and the others to bring this special meeting of the Legislative Assembly where a vote could be taken, whether we vote the speaker out or we vote for him to stay? All in favor say aye, those against. Kenneth will have no part of that. How is this going to affect him? On a local level, within his constituency, and on a national level, looking at the bigger picture. I'm wondering about that tonight. I really am. I haven't spoken to my friend Kenneth in a while, so I didn't get to speak with him face to face or even on the phone. I'm just analyzing the situation here, that you can be very popular at this moment, and 48 hours down the road, you could have lost all popularity. That's how quick people can lose confidence in politicians, in all politicians. So Kenneth is serving his first term. He's loved. He is supported by his people, and I sincerely would like to see the incumbent, Kenneth Bryan, returned to his seat in 2021. Campaigning is going to start very shortly. I listened to the Honorable Juliana O'Connor Connolly, who holds the portfolio of agriculture. She spoke quite eloquently at Ash Wednesday's agriculture show. It was about how we can celebrate as Caymanians the strides we've made in agriculture. But also in that speech, it was almost as if you could hear hints of early campaigning. This is what we're going to do moving forward. And of course, Miss Juliana didn't take all the credit. This is what I'm going to do. It is what we are going to do. Here are plans. This is what we have to do. So we're running out of time. This term is almost finished. So moving into 2021, I think Minister O'Connor Connolly's speech at Ash Wednesday's agriculture show was very fitting. It was very informative, but also it was a bit of early campaigning in there as well. That's my opinion, as someone who was there listening. That's my opinion, right? So another first timer I'm thinking of is Miss Barbara Connolly. Now, I read all the comments on Cayman News Service, on Cayman Mile Road, on Facebook, all the comments that people make. Some people are very cruel with their comments too, but it's all done, I suppose, in freedom of speech. People have the right to say what they want to say, but I always say, whatever you write or type, do so with good judgment and in good taste, right? We don't want to get into libel and calumny and all those things that could get us potentially sued. We say how we feel, we voice our opinions with tact. So, Miss Barbara Connolly works hard. I have seen Miss Barbara Connolly work hard behind the scenes. So for that, gentleman, whose name I won't call, but he tends to be very vocal. He's not from here, but he's married to a Caymanian. They have a child. For him to say that Barbara Connolly is doing nothing, Barbara Connolly has done nothing, that is not true. And I came to her defense on social media. I say, you cannot post these things against the lady. You do not know what's going on behind the scenes, right? Not only does Miss Barbara speak well, not only is she seen in her community, whether that's to refurbish a park, whether that's to do something special for the children at Christmas time, Miss Barbara is a phone call away. And I'm here to say, and I'm not getting paid to say this, I'm not campaigning on her behalf. I'm only speaking on what I have seen and what I have witnessed. Miss Barbara Connolly works hard. This is her first term. I would like to see Miss Barbara returned. I think she can do a lot. She has so much more to do for women and children in the Cayman Islands, right, to make our communities better. But now, the controversial issue with Smith Barcadere. Miss Barbara went there and found them plans, you know. The previous administration had these plans drawn up. It had been discussed, at least. So I'm hoping that Miss Barbara will not be a scapegoat now, right? She produced a video stating her side of the story, right? Miss Barbara feels that there needs to be a parking lot built because it's not safe and it's illegal how cars are parked at Smith Barcadere. The double parking on the roads and the parking lot that's adjacent, that's already there, that's always filled to capacity at the weekends. So some sort of park is needed, and Miss Barbara supports that. Now, many people don't like the fact that there were other meetings held behind closed doors that didn't invite the public. Some of the persons who are against it simply don't want it. They think Smith Barcadere should remain as is. They feel as if government just wants to enhance it, not for us, the people, but for tourists off the cruise ship, to make it another tourist spot. When in fact, in Cayman, we've lost so many of our beaches that Smith Barcadere is kind of all we got left, right? But they want to enhance it. Miss Barbara supports the enhancement. Now, if her constituents, the majority of persons that voted for her, are to say to her, well, we don't support it, then Miss Barbara has a choice to make. Turn against the project because the majority of her voters say turn against it, or if she is to survey her electorate, the persons who voted her in, and get who's for it, who's against it, she can then draw her own conclusion to decide what she wants to do. But as it stands now, Miss Barbara is in support of that project at Smith Barcadere, particularly the building of the park, the car park, as it's needed, right? So what I'm saying is, I said all of that. Sometimes I tend to be long-winded. I said all of that to say this. Miss Barbara could be a star 3 days ago, but because she makes the wrong decision as it relates to a certain project, bam, her numbers in the poll are dropped. she loses popularity. And simple things like this, we might see it as simple, but things like this can affect how people vote for you. Because those who want to become new-time politicians, first-time politicians, they're going to use as much ammunition against the incumbent as they possibly can, because new-timers want the seat. That's how it is in politics. It's a race. First past the post. It's a race. Who can get the seat, right? So at this point, and I haven't done a questionnaire, I haven't done a survey, but I do not know at this point if Miss Barbara's seat is secured come 2021. She must be thinking about that as well. Kenneth Bryan, is his seat secure for 2021? I would hope that it is, right? I also look at Councillor David White. He's a first-timer as well. Got in on the card of the PPM, the People's Progressive Movement. David works too. He represents ministers, Mr. David, when ministers are away. He is new at the game, though, and I'm sure he's getting a lot of experience, because a minister once said, who had to be absent, I want you to read my speech. And the minister sort of hinted, you need to get practice in this, because I see you, the minister was alluded to, in the future, you could be a minister yourself. So when people become politicians, do politicians really go in thinking, I only want to do one term? I only want to do two terms? I think the majority of first-timers, the majority of young politicians that go into the game of politics, their dream is to one day be a minister, right? David is my very good friend. David and Christopher, they're my very good friends, the White family. But I don't know if I would vote for David. I'm being honest. I like him. Great cricketer, right? We go to the same church. But I don't vote for a person just because they're my friend. And I want you to know that David works very hard too. He and I have worked on certain, well, let me rephrase that. There's been a project or two that where we have been working on, and I'm behind the scenes. Obviously, I'm not a member of the LA. I've done my part to get things done. So I know that Mr. White works hard as well. I know that. Does he have the popularity? Has he scored enough to confidently say, my people, give me another chance. Put me back in 2021. I don't know. I really don't know. I find him to be honest, speaks the truth, and as voters, we don't like that. I don't know what's wrong with us. We like the scandals. We like the politicians who speaks through both sides of their mouth, who are sometimes caught up in scandals. We like that because of the drama and the excitement, and it builds their popularity. It would appear to me that sometimes the worse some of our politicians behave, the more liked they become, because they're human, I suppose. Because they can do no wrong, or perhaps they have a long list of so many goods that they've done that the small bads cannot match up to all the good. I think of quite a few politicians like that. You know, they're there for you. When there was death in your family, they came to your house, you cried on their shoulder. They assisted you when you couldn't pay your CUC bill. When you had no groceries in your home, they took their money, non-government money, not money from the government coffers, money out of their pocket, and they bought you groceries. They've done so much good in their church, in civic organizations, that if one should buck their toe and fall down 20 times 10, they get back up and carry on because they have the support of the people. They're loved by their people. There are many politicians like that. But of course, you know, I'm thinking of particularly one who is all popular. So another first-timer. Who are the first-timers? I want you to help me here. I'm thinking of Mr. Kenneth Bryan, Miss Barbara Connolly, and Mr. Bernie Bush. Who else is serving a first term? They're the only three that I spoke on tonight. Maybe there are others. I can't seem to remember. Is this Chris Saunders' first term or second? And what about... I need you to help me now, please. What about the other one there? Oh, I'm having I lost my train of thought. I lost my train of thought there. But if I've forgotten in a first timer, please let me know. Please let me know. This is unscripted. I didn't write a speech or anything. I'm just on here giving my take on it for what it's worth. I like to do that from time to time. And I see many of you are on watching. Thank you for that as well. So, we need term limits as well. We need term limits as well. I know in the United States, my goodness, you have members of the Congress and members of the Senate. They've been there forever. They become grandfathers and grandmothers. We don't need that. Now is the time for the millennials. We should be preparing the millennials to come to power. Succession planning, right? That's what we need. So, I said all of that to say this. As you scrutinize the three individuals I've called, Mr. Kenneth Bryan, Mr. Bernie Bush, Ms. Barbara Connolly, look at all the work they've done. Don't just criticize them on their recent decisions, because the bigger picture is, have they done a good job? Have they represented you to the best of their ability? And are you in the position to say, yes, I will give them one more term? Who knows? Out of the three names I've called, one or maybe all three might be a minister of government. But what we don't want is, this is my opinion, we don't want anybody from East End, Georgetown, Kim and Bright, West Bay being in there for 50 or 60 years. That's too long. Absolute power corrupts. You become too involved, and you become too, I won't use that word, but we should be grooming the younger people. Now, a lot of people are not interested in becoming a politician. They just aren't. You ask them. You say to them, I see your potential. They're not interested. Not everybody wants to throw their hat into the ring to run for office. Your whole life is affected. You're under personal scrutiny all the time. Your family is affected. Not everybody wants that. Now, the pay is very good. You're paid handsomely, but at what price? And the thing is, can you be strong enough when you're approached by foreign financial interests, millionaires, billionaires wanting to cut deals with you under the table? You see? What you would call, well, look here, you sell us out our, those kind of deals. Or are you going to be an honest person? Well, it has been said politicians like baby diapers should be changed often. People like the excitement, the cult-like culture that's built around someone who's scandalous, who is known to be a bit bad at times. Like it builds their character, especially for a man. Perhaps women wouldn't get away with it. But I would like to see more women in politics. And why are our female politicians silent when it comes to she is supported? Is it they don't want to get involved because they don't want to sway the jury? It's currently being investigated. It hasn't gone to court yet. But as women, and the strides that women have made in this country, from not being able to vote to the fact that we now have 3 or 4 serving MLAs who are women, they're very silent. And I'll close by saying, can someone become so powerful that they become the key card? No government can be formed without them. If yes, is that how we want to continue to do politics in this country? Or is it time for a new day? More independence, more younger people, i.e. the millennials. My good friend Mr. Kenneth Bryan is standing on the plank of principle. I think he's returning a favor. He hasn't forgotten when he was in court. There was only one person in politics who stood by him, and that was the Honorable Speaker. Kenneth hasn't forgotten. Mr. Bryan is not all of a sudden going to vote no confidence. He's not going to do it. Will that cost him his seat in 2021? Or will he come back even stronger? Because he's a man of principle. Only his voters can decide that. Will Miss Barbara Connolly be returned? Simply because she has worked. She hasn't just sat down painting her fingernails. No. The lady has rolled her sleeves up, put on her gloves, and she's done the manual labor as well. She's represented her people. She has worked. And that is why I have come to her defense on social media. She hasn't asked me to, but I have, because I just could not sit back and listen to people say these manner of evil against her. I said, no, you stop right there, sir. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. And Mr. Bernie Bush, does Mr. Bernie Bush have the power to come back as an independent or as a member of a new party? Because I'm of the opinion Mr. Bernie Bush got in as a result of the leadership skills, the charisma of the chief politician from West Bay. That's my opinion. If I have accidentally left out any other first term, I'm trying to think who else is a first term. I think everybody else in the House right now are serving their second, third, fourth, fifth term, whatever. I think those three are first-timers, first-termers. Will they be returned? That's the question. I'm coming off now. You can continue the conversation on the Facebook thread, on Caymanmar Road comment section, and let's talk about what I've talked about tonight. I thank you for watching, and vote wise. Vote your conscience. It is your inalienable right. And as Caymanians, that only thing that not take away from us yet, we still got a right to vote. You have the power, not the politicians. They work for us. We hire them and we fire them. Vote wisely. And as we move forward, election 2021 not far. Campaigning will be starting in short order. God bless you. God bless the Cayman Islands. I'm Quincy Brown. Just giving you my 2 cents. Take good care.
Raise your voice if it's not fair. Anytime, everywhere. Be a hero, show the world.